Welcome to the channel's book club. Jahman Anikulapo is one of the most important personalities in Nigeria's literary space. 13 years ago, he co-pioneered the Lagos Book and Arts Festival, a bizarre idea to contemplate and sustain at that time. But with determination, the Lagos Book and Arts Festival has become one of the pivotal literary events for writers, authors, and readers. It has also inspired other book festivals in different parts of Nigeria. In today's episode, we'll be showing you an interview where he bears his mind on his literary interests. We'll also be introducing Meryl Wabaso, a 5-year-old Nigerian prodigy. Her first published work, Stories from My Heart, is a collection of short stories. She was exactly 5 years and 180 days at the time of the release, making her perhaps the youngest ever Nigerian and African author. These and more after this break.
From one nation to another, there must be a meeting point. Their ideas may be different, but they must work to agree on what's best for the people. Diplomatic Channel untangles the discussions to bring out what's really important. Because it is our world, and it's our right to know how their decisions affect.
The Lagos Book and Art Festival above is a project of the Committee for Relevant Art, CORA, or now CORA Arts and Cultural Foundation. It was founded in 1991 by Tony Akinsho and a couple of friends. I was a journalist reporting on it, but by 2003, I came in to help to join the organization, even though I've been very acidic critic of the organization, but I joined because I could see what they were trying to do. And the whole idea was to use, Tony Akinsho is a geologist and arts writer who is very committed to the idea of using art to empower the community. So we started the CORA in the age of, that period when they said, when we had that crisis in 1991, that was the transition to civil rule when we were fighting Babangida to leave so that we can have democracy, and kept on shifting the goalposts. And then started clamping down on people. So we discovered that the artist community was not having enough voice in the struggle. You could hear of Ganifa and me, Bekora and some, but where were the artists? And they were writing. They were writing in the newspaper and nobody seemed to be reading what they were saying. So he thought that by bringing the artists together, they could begin to make contribution into the discourse that was going on at that time. So we started in front of his house in Festac, one of those blocks, and I've been a reporter on it. Then in 2003, I had to join them, and I became the program chairman. So one of the ideas that came from Tony Akinsho was that why don't we focus on using the idea of that the strength of Nigeria is more or less in its own people. Nigeria may not be able to get oil; is temporary; it will dry up someday. Nigeria is not into manufacturing; it's not into any serious economic venture. But that the human capital that we have, because at that time we won virtually all the literary prizes. Soyinka had won the Nobel, Benuki had won the Booker Prize, So Achebe has won virtually all the prizes. All our young writers were winning prizes. But these things were not manifesting in our national consciousness. So he thought that by developing the human capital, we like to say Labab is about developing the human capital and the minds of our people. It's as if we were anticipating the graduation of global economy into this knowledge, what they call knowledge economy now. So we thought by using the idea of books and the arts to develop the mind of our people, we can then create a generation of thinkers and people who use their knowledge to do things. So we kept on. We didn't have the Labaf there, but we have programs like Art Stampede. We have occasional, if somebody released a book, then we will call them, we all sit down and discuss the book. In fact, the very first Stampede Art Stampede. It's a quarterly program since 1991. On June 2nd, Meryl Ezekiel had just released a book that she called Pop Literature. This was strange to us. Literature, we know, is literature. What is pop literature? For Meryl Ezekiel, who became Meryl Mofedamijo, married Richard Mofedamijo, and was publishing, was it classic? I released that book that I said this is pop literature. And it was strange to us. So we brought her to the June 1991 Stampede, and then invited people like Sheye, who is late now. In fact, unfortunately, the two of them are late. We brought Shegun Ajayi, who was a lecturer in Ogun State University, and who was writing. When you talk about writing critique of books, it was that guy that was writing it, with occasional contribution by Ruben Abati. So we brought him to engage this lady who claimed to be writing pop literature. And we brought the Shola Oshorizon, who had just won all the Anna prizes and as chair of Nigerian Authors Prize, to discuss that book. We hope that this is not the direction that Nigerian literature will go, because it was more or less for us a reduction of what they achieved based the showing cars, the Neo Shundare, JP Clark, what they have done. They've written substantive book. But this person is coming and saying this is pop literature, which is more like in the tune of what you call soft style, or what people refer to as gutter journalism or junk journalism. So we started that idea, and that idea was always focused, featuring in all the art stampede that we then had every quarter, until 2003 when I joined, and then we started thinking about this idea of the festival. Now, in 1991, I'll get the actual date. Professor Chino Achebe was returning home. In fact, in this book, there's a passage there. He was returning home for the first time. No, he had left in 1991. He had that accident in 1991, so he left, and he was returning in 1999. And we thought, okay. I became chairman of the program committee in 1993. Sorry, not 2003. So he was returning in 1991, and in 1999. If you remember the way Achebe left, he had an accident, he went out, and nobody heard of him again. It's like nobody heard of him, because we sort of just forgot him there. So when we heard that he was coming back, we thought of something substantial to welcome him back to Nigeria, to show that the community cared, even though people tended to have forgotten him there. So we approached the federal government then. The minister then was Ojoma Dwekwe, who is a sound intellectual. Never mind that he went into politics, he's an ambassador to Canada. We went to him and said, why don't we honor Achebe, who is returning, with some kind of literary event to show that the community appreciated it. And so the man, being a listener and a friend, he agreed to the idea of the National Creativity Day. So he said they should choose that day was September, but use that day as just declare September 14 every year as National Creativity Day. Achebe came, they gave him 1 million naira, and he was telling them that, look, if you cannot sustain this dream, please don't give me the money. Otherwise, I would rather just stay on my own. So right there, while they were preparing for him to come, we decided to launch the idea of Lagos Book and Art Festival to tie in with the National Creativity Day, September 14. That was the beginning of it. And the whole idea was to bring books. We were complaining that people were not reading enough. But we thought that by bringing art, textile design, music, dance, theater into the context of book, people will begin to start to associate book with entertainment. That book is not just to read and pass exam. That book can be fun. So we try to create an atmosphere of fun around the idea of book. So if you come to Laba, for instance, you will see that there's concerts, there will be dance, music. But if you check, the main thing we're selling there is a book. So people come in to enjoy concerts, to enjoy food and things, but then they pick books. All the discussions around books. So if you just roll in there, you are likely to end up in one panel where we'll be asking you a question or where you participate in the idea of books. So it was to create an ambience of fun, entertainment, life around the idea of book. But it was inspired by the idea of the National Creativity Day, which unfortunately the federal government itself has forgotten now. They've never done another one. So we started doing the Labaf every September 14, every year. But then we now discovered that it wasn't tallying with the school calendar. Because the school would be on holiday then, and the parents would not want to bring their kids. whereas we wanted a huge student population participation. So we then moved it to November when the school will have resumed, and so they can come from school and not from home, because it's difficult to mobilize them from home. And then September had become a raining period, so we thought we would move to November, but unfortunately for us, the rain now for every day. so that was the whole idea of the book. It's to encourage the human capital resources of Nigeria, to develop it so that we can move wholesomely into the idea of the global knowledge economy. And many of the young people who participated at the beginning, they are now writers themselves. They are, in fact, the guy who is directing, I used to direct the Labaf until about 2 or 3 years ago. The guy who is now directing Ayuaribabu came to us as a student of University of Lagos, and he's grown there to write his own book. He's become a publisher. Now I've handed over to him, he's the one directing now. So there are lots of challenges that we face, but we like to talk more in terms of the positive gains that we've had. As I've mentioned, we have students who came as students then, who have now become writers. We have somebody who even came as a young secondary school student all the way from the East, who is now writing and is popular on Facebook with his writing. He's published about 2 books now. He's working. So we like to think more in terms of the gain. But the main challenge that we faced has been, just like any other project in Nigeria, our environment also encourage things that elevate the mind. I think we're too much into vanities. The money that people spend on parties and all those things, if they just give us 1/10 of that, we'll organize a huge festival that will help us. It's the question of funding. Funding is serious. We hardly ever have money. Even from last year, we're owing millions. We don't even know how we're going to pay it. We've been lucky over the time that someone like Toyin Akinshu used to work in this oil company where he had a lot of, he earned very good. We pumped virtually all his money that we've wrecked him financially. I've been wrecked financially too, because my little salary that I was earning as a journalist, I was always saving up towards the book, so that when they come, we give them money. But then we've had support from some corporate organizations. Some of them even say they don't want to be mentioned. But we've really enjoyed a lot of facility support from, for instance, the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas. They give us facility support, not money. But that goes a lot, because the main cost is always the venue and the setting. But they always facilitate for it. It's either they help us to use their own resources to help us get that venue and things. So we've not really had corporate support. We have friends who will place adverts in our brochures or things like that. But to have the real money, but when we do our budget runs into like 10 to 15 million because of what we want to do. Well, we host about 5,000 kids, students, over the course of 4 days. And when they want to go, we will give them books, we give them gifts, and we have conferences that we're inviting people from outside the country, writers from around the country, to even pay for their flight and accommodation. It's always a big problem, but somehow we've been able to just beat through it. It's always a challenge every year. We hope that someday we can get corporate support. But remarkably, last year, because of the president's the launching of the book, Bring Back the Book initiative, we were able to get books. They financed book, they bought books from writers that were able to give to those kids, which was the greatest moment for me. The fact that we could hand over books to kids and they went to read those books, and I think even that's a major support, because otherwise the children come, we took them through workshops and writing, storytelling, painting, textile design, but they go home with nothing. But this one, they were able to go home at least with 2 or 3 books. And that was joy for us. I think the female writers, the young female writers, they've been very incredible. Just like the young female writers, female musicians. You know, we talk about the rot in hip-hop language and diction. But look at what the girls are singing. I said somewhere that while the boys are singing about Moet and balls and all those ras things, the girls are singing about, when they want to talk about love, they talk about love in terms of the way love elevates. Love celebrates life. I mean, you know, they're more poetic in their work, and they're more sound in what they produce as music. So the writers too, we're lucky that the young male writers in Nigeria are doing incredible things with their talent. But I tend to prefer mostly the works of the females. For me, not in terms of saying favorite writer, but the writers I've enjoyed very much. Of course, Chimamanda. Ever since I encountered the book Popular Discourse, I just fell in love with her. And our strength of narrative is strong. Then you go and read Lola Shonen. I mean, the incredible movement of the prose, just flowing, just like it's a book that you read and then you keep it by the side of, but you want to read it again. Not because you get some intimate pleasure, but because of the language. I've read Aduni. Abimbola Adelapo, who used to work in Punch newspaper, or Uwabani, Tricia. If we take all these our young writers, theater, all that. So I tend to prefer them a lot. But among the male, I've been very, very conversant with work with mostly the works of. There's a book I started reading. I hope I get the name right. It feels the funeral did not end also. I love that. Love that book. I've read a lot of Judibia. Yeah, I love the Judibians. Well, it's a pity I can't recall all of them, but there's a lot of young writers who are. Okay, I just started reading. My friend saying I can show forgot his Farad in my car, and I started reading it, and I'm saying, this Richard of a boy, who is this character? And I've been reading it. So it means that if I read more of them, I will. But I didn't have enough time to do a lot of reading when I was editing. But now, that's what I'm going to be spending time doing.
Do you have a favorite book? That's a sort.
Favorite book? My favorite book is not Nigerian. All Paulo Coelho's books are. I just consume them. I love the guy. It used to be Graham Greene for me. Graham Greene. Because I have all his collections. I've read all of them. But I started reading Paulo Coelho about 5 years. Introduced to me by a friend in Sweden. And I started reading this guy. I had to just go. Every time I'm passing through any airport or where. In fact, at the point I discovered that I bought about 3 copies of a particular book. Every time I saw just Paulo Coelho, I'll just start packing them. And so part of the thing I'm doing now, post my newsroom engagement, is just trying to read all his work. Well, one thing I've said everywhere is that The Guardian was a place, the newsroom I worked, that gave me all the ambience. I'm a free spirit sort of person. I don't like to do things my way. I'm not the kind of person who can work in an establishment, really. But I found The Guardian to be a family, and the newsroom, it was the greatest newsroom for me. I think after that Guardian newsroom, I can't work in any other newsroom. I will now get that kind of spirit. So all the years I worked in The Guardian, as I mentioned, I never met the publisher once. He never for once told me a story to publish. All the time he was in it. And so I enjoyed that kind of freedom. So I was able to do other things. While I was working in The Guardian, I was producing program as chairman of Cora, program director for Cultural Advocate Caucus. I work on Arts and Business Foundation. I have so many things that I was doing. So I want to see how I can harvest this my other interest. I had other life. I had an option. I wasn't slavish to the idea of working in the newsroom. That's your total life. The newsroom was my life, but where I'd spent a lot of my energies and my resources is in producing programs, organizing things around the culture sector. And I think I'll be doing more in that area. I have books I'm editing for people. I have projects I'm involved with that will be coming up. And so I want to spend the first few months and so. And maybe if I run out of steam, then I'll think of what I need to. But for now, I'm so engaged. Even as I'm sitting here, I'm on my way to Abuja for a lecture retreat thing that I'm doing for some staff of some agencies. So I have all those lives to live now. And of course, I like to say that I'm a layback at night.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Our book of the week is Waiting for an Angel by Helen Abila, who is a Kane Prize Award winner and one of the finest Nigerian writers of his generation. Waiting for an Angel has been described as the generation-defining successor to Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Get yourself a copy, read it, and let's know what you think about it.
At first glance, she appears to be just another little girl. But there is something extra special about Meryl Wabaso that stands her out. And that is her talent as a writer. Her first published work, Stories from Her Heart, is one that has set her in the record book as probably the youngest writer.
The Story from My Heart came like a little joke. She had put up some stories and read it in class to her class teacher, Mrs. Breda Wanate, and they decided to make it a secret and present it to me on my birthday, November 25th. By the time it was my birthday, she has written 3 more. She read the stories, and all who were there were excited, and we felt we should put it to a book and make it public. Within the time we took that decision, and when the book came out, she has written additional 4, but 9 of them were chronicled in the book.
Because I want my friends to read it, and I want my book to spread everywhere. The King and His 2 Sons. Mirror in the Dreamland. The bird flew away. I love you, God. The flute boy, the fish girl.
And those who have stood by her have words of praise.
Right, Meryl, she's a lovely girl. Meryl is a brilliant girl. Meryl is she's calm, and then she listens. She pays attention. So everything she's taught. You know, she talks a lot. At that point, even if you ask her to sit down, she won't. She is always fast. She will want to tell you something. She has something to say everything. So that was how I knew. And after that, I saw her writing a lot. She'll get plain paper, piece of paper, and you see her start writing, trying to put things together. You know, I used to call her lawyer sometimes.
She inspired me to be a very intelligent and brilliant child. And at the time she was in my class, I noticed that she has a future ahead. But then we just started writing and spelling at that time, and she was still a very little girl then. And then she was just barely 4+ when she left me. And she actually has a background that denotes a bright future for her. She has a Christian background, and her parents always portray this trust and belief in God, and she also portrays that a lot because she loves praying. She talks a lot because she expresses herself so well. She's just a wonderful child, and I am so happy this is happening for her right now. For kids out there that have this talent and this great gifts within them, I would love to use this medium to advise their parents out there to give them a chance, to watch out for that talent in their children and develop them, because you never can tell what these children will become in future. We aspire for them to be doctors, lawyers, astronauts and all, and but because that's what some great men and women have done, and they succeeded in them. But for her and every other person out there, I'll advise parents to watch out for that thing their children love doing. Maybe dancing, writing, reading, whatever it may be. I'm sure that will make them great men and women in the future.
If this talent is properly nurtured, Meryl Wabaso's future in books is one page at a time.